Coming up on Hands on Tech, what do we do if we've got some old Windows hardware and it's time to modernize? Well, stay tuned for that answer. Up next.
This is TWiT.
Hello and welcome to Hands on Tech. I am Mikah Sargent, and today we are once again taking your wonderful questions and doing our best to answer them. We've got a question in from David, who writes, "Greetings. I have an old Windows home server that was taken out of service when my internet was poor. Now that I have a great fiber internet, is there a good use for the Windows home server as a backup or something? If so, where is the best place to find information on how to set it up? Thanks. David from Alabama." Well, David from Alabama, thank you for writing in. First and foremost, I want to say, yeah, your hardware, absolutely worth bringing back into service, but it kind of depends on something that I think you gotta be aware of here, which is that the box, the Windows home server box, that part is still useful. The operating system on it, no. Windows home server should not go back online. Like the thought of running Windows home server as is, especially exposed to this beautiful new fiber connection that runs so quick. No. Well, let's talk about why. Regardless of what version of Windows home server you have, it's been out of support for years. Windows Home Server 2011 has been unsupported since April 12th of 2016. The original 2007 release, which is built on Windows Server 2003, that's even older. With the release of Windows Server 2012, the Windows Home Server product line was then folded into Windows Server, like the Windows Server family, essentially. And so WHS as a concept kind of came to a close at that point. Microsoft's own guidance was at the time to migrate to a device running Windows Server Standard or Windows Server Essentials. And even that recommendation is now itself a decade old. So yeah, no. WHS, when I say unsupported, what does that mean though? Well, it means no more security updates for the home server components. So any this is important here. Lean in, lock in. Any vulnerability that has been found since 2016, mind you, we're now living in the generative AI era where people are discovering all sorts of new flaws all the time with the help of generative AI. Any vulnerability found since 2016 is then thereby permanent. A fast and always-on internet connection is exactly what then makes that unpatched server a beautiful, delicious, yummy, attractive target. Microsoft's WHS 2011 is, you can learn more about that at some of the links that we have in the show notes. So now we've gotten that out of the way. We're not using the software. We're kicking that. What can we do with the hardware? Well, the WHS box, almost certainly like a small low power machine. I'm sure it's got multiple drive bays. And so it's already looking like a modern home server. It's a fun little server there. The move is to wipe it and then install a current actively maintained operating system. So where should we go? Well, I love this. I've been doing this research myself for what I'm looking to build. And therefore, it was easy to kind of fold this in. So welcome. Thank you for joining me in this space. Let's start with TrueNAS. This is the most popular free and open source NAS operating system, or NAS, depending on how you pronounce it. It handles backups, file shares, snapshots, app hosting, and then with the ZFS file system, it will give you the data integrity protection that you're looking for as well. So you can find that at truenas.com. And again, it's really popular. It's got a lot of support, and I think that's an important aspect of it. There's also Open Media Vault, otherwise known as OMV. This is Debian-based. It's lighter weight. It's forgiving of older hardware. It's forgiving of modest hardware. So if your Windows Home Server box has super limited RAM, then this is going to be a much more friendly option for you than going with TrueNAS or the other option that I'm going to suggest. because the third and final option is a tool called Unraid, available at unraid.net. It is a paid operating system. It's one time though, which is nice, but it is so well loved. And it's honestly, it's the one that in my own research for my own home server, I kept coming across and then going, can I find something else instead so I don't have to pay? And I keep coming back to it because it's really well liked for letting you kind of take mismatched drives of different sizes and use them, and then also run apps and virtual machines super easily. I was kind of shocked at all of the functionality. That's available at unraid.net. There is one hardware caution that I have for you, because WHS 2011 had no problem running on machines with as little as 2 gigs of RAM, and TrueNAS in particular prefers 8 gigs of RAM or more. So you do need to check what's installed and whether the board can actually take more before you select one of these operating systems. If you pop in and see that or you recall that your Windows Home Server was really light on RAM and it's also not upgradable, then Open Media Vault is the way to go. But if you'd like to sort of modernize the hardware a little bit and then you're able to do that and go for something like TrueNAS or Unraid. Now, you mentioned, wanting to use this as a backup. Is that a possibility for you? Absolutely. In fact, it's one of the best jobs for this machine more than anything else because you have some options here. You can create it as a local backup target. So if you have Macs, if you have PCs in the house, you point those at this network attached storage as a backup option. With TrueNAS or with OMV, it can serve as a time machine destination. It can serve as an SMB share for file history on Windows. That time machine destination, of course, is for Macs. And then there you've got that fast on-site copy. But remember, this is where it's always important to remember the 3-2-1 rule. 3 copies of your data on 2 types of media with 1 offsite. So this repurposed home server, this is the great second copy at home, but it is not, and this is I do see people do this, they get network attached storage, they get some sort of home server situation going, and they go, I'm backing up to there. And then they don't have an offsite cloud backup because it feels like you're doing the backup that you need to do. No, a fire, any sort of event could result in the loss of this on-site backup. You need an off-site backup somewhere. So don't stop at this just because you've added it. Make sure that you pair it with a cloud backup service. If you want it to do more than just backups, well, then all 3 OSs that we talked about, that's Unraid, Open Media Vault, and TrueNAS, do support media serving. And so you can use Plex, or you could use Jellyfin, which is the free and open source tool. And those are just add-ons. So you would be able to make it more than just a backup server. It could also serve as a media server. If you're looking for that, again, we will hit all of it in the show notes. Links to TrueNAS's official documents, the installation guides, Open Media Vault's documentation, and then Unraid's getting started guides as well. One place that I do suggest going, well, I guess it's technically 2, r/homelab, r/homeserver, because that is where I have found a lot of information, and that's great for especially hardware-specific questions. The important thing, of course, is to tell them the exact make and model of your WHS box, okay? Because if you can give that information, many of these folks are familiar with sort of like the little quirks of these machines and, OEM-specific errors that you may not otherwise come across. So be sure to be as detailed as you possibly can in order to get the best support that you possibly can. I think that you will be happy about that. I want to mention it's very easy as sort of the summary of everything here. Keep the hardware, but lose the software. Wipe it. then put TrueNAS, Open Media Vault on it, maybe Unraid, and you've turned this retired Windows home server into a modern backup target and possibly a media server that's safe to run on that nice new fiber line. And congratulations on joining the world of fiber. We love it here, right? It's so nice and roomy. I think that's great. I want to mention before we say goodbye today, a couple of things. First, I want to remind you all about Club TWiT, and then we'll do a little bit of follow-up. Club TWiT. twit.tv/clubtwit is where you go. You can also use the QR code in the top corner. Joining the club gets you access to some awesome benefits. Every single one of our shows is ad-free there. You also gain access to some special, delicious gifts? No, they're not gifts. They're perks. That's the word I was looking for. You will be able to access some feeds, including a feed that has kind of behind the scenes content. So before the show, after the show. We also have a feed that has our live coverage of tech news events. So like recently, Jeff Jarvis, Leo Laporte, and myself covered Google I/O when we had live commentary about it. Leo and I will be also doing the same for WWDC, just around the corner. And we also have a third feed that has our Club TWiT shows like My Crafting Corner, Stacy's Book Club, the AI User Group, as well as my upcoming Media Club. Very exciting and all available to you there. And then you can also join our Discord server, a fun place to go to chat with your fellow Club TWiT members and those of us here at TWiT. If all of that sounds good to you, twit.tv/clubtwit, $10 a month, $120 a year, and we'd love to have you. All right, some follow-up. So Jeff had written in asking about Android Auto and having some issues with being able to get it to work. It said, here was the original question. I drive cars for a local auto dealership, multiple different types of cars, and this happens in them all the time. I use Android Auto, and recently something has changed. I'll get a text message, the banner that would typically show at the top of the screen stopped appearing, and so on and so forth. Just having trouble with things working. So Jeff wrote in to say this. I was able to fix it. I do need to say that prior to the airing of Hands on Tech, I was able to fix the problem with the microphone not working. I fixed it by uninstalling the last Google update. Because updating Google was one of your first suggestions, I did do the update, and again, the microphone stopped working. So I removed the update again, and it's fine again. Hopefully the next update will not have the same issue. The banner problem was fixed when I removed the Android Auto cache and data. Unfortunately, I did them at the same time, so I don't know if doing just the cache would have fixed the problem. Thank you very much. And again, I really enjoy watching and listening to all of the shows. So Jeff, I am glad that ended up working for you, and I'm glad that so much of it was as simple as getting rid of the cache or getting rid of some of the extra data therein. It is unfortunate to hear that the update caused an issue for you, and it makes me curious if that update did something to permissions or if it is truly just a bug that has shown up for you. In either case, in all of those cases, so glad to hear that things are working better for you now. And I always love to hear responses from folks on how their questions were answered and if they came up with a solution. So be sure to write in hot@twit.tv. That is going to bring us to the end of this episode of Hands on Tech. It is always my pleasure to bring you this show. I'll be back again next week, next month, with another episode. But until then, I will say goodbye to all of you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, depending on what time it is where you are. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.